I'm Bob Trask. Thank you for being with me. Today we're going to talk about nature, but it's going to be in an entirely different way than you normally think of nature. Because we think of nature as like trees and breeze and stuff that goes on out there somewhere. And today we're going to talk about nature not out there somewhere, but inside of here. And the title of the talk today is Let Go Now. Nature's got your back. So we fight the good fight, don't we? We do. Day by day, we do our best and we have our wishes and goals, and we strive constantly and heroically, I might add, for those goals, for those wishes. And sometimes some of them come true, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, then we have to check in with ourselves, don't we? And we have to see if we're okay. Because what we do, and I know I do this too, and you have to be careful about this. We we evaluate ourselves relative to our successes. Well, if we evaluate ourselves relative to our successes, then we also evaluate ourselves relative to our failures or our losses. And what's true about life is that we're going to have way, way, way more losses and failures than successes. That's just what's true. You know that's true. You look back over your life, and you might even have a scoreboard somewhere in your subconscious mind where you have all these black marks of all the places that you failed, and a few little blue marks over here at the places where you won. And there's not as many blue marks as there are black marks. So part of what we're going to do today is take the black off of those marks, because failure is not fatal. Failure is necessary. Failures are the stepping stones to success. Without failures, success does not happen. Success doesn't happen. So when we do win, and we win our goals, what happens is that sometimes those goals then become kind of empty, because it was like a benchmark I wanted to reach. And once I reached that benchmark, then it became some sort of so what? It's like climbing stairs. I look up at from the bottom of the stairs at that second landing, and it seems so far above me. Oh my goodness. But I'm climb. And then when I'm finally on the second landing, it's beneath me. I'm standing on it. It ain't no big deal. And our goals are very much like that too. When we attain them, a lot of the times the magic is gone. The magic is gone because it was all about hopes and wishes and dreams of how it could be, how it could, if only. But here's what happens. When I get to that place where I win, I acknowledge intellectually that I won. I know that I set a goal. I had a vision. I set a goal. I worked my mission steps. I got to the goal. I owned it. I completed it. I did it. But the question is, am I really worthy? Self-worth. Am I really worthy of feeling excited about myself and about this goal? I wanted this beautiful home. I wanted it for years and years and years. And finally, I got this beautiful home, and I moved in and I got all my stuff put all around through the home. And am I feeling the way I thought I'd feel? Am I filled with the joy and the ecstasy that I hoped I would feel? Because once I get my dream, sometimes I'm not really worthy of feeling that way. And then I don't feel that way. And then the dream becomes a little hollow. It feels a little empty. Like instead of getting the shoes I was shopping for, I got the box the shoes came in. That's my house. It's the box the shoes came in. The shoes aren't there. The joy isn't there. The ecstasy isn't there. Then what do? Usually, we modern human beings ignore our feelings and our thinkings, and it's because we haven't won enough or big enough. So we set our feelings aside, we set ourselves aside, and we march on like soldiers into the battle, constantly striving for more, do more, do more, do more, have more, do more, have more. And then sometimes people just give up. They just say, I've been in competition with the rest of the world to try to make my light shine, and I've given up. And then they either just sit at home eating bonbons and watching daytime TV, or or they get a mind-numbing job somewhere where they're just bored out of their brain, or they maybe even just bag out and take up residence on a street corner with a sleeping bag and a shopping cart. Is that all there is? Are those our only choices? Let's face it, life is often disappointing, isn't it? But that's the way it's supposed to be. But not disappointing. It's just filled with failures. But they're not disappointments, they're steps towards success if we don't give up. But disappointment, let's agree on this. It's not Life's not supposed to be that way. We're not supposed to be creatures of disappointment. We're creatures of nature, and there's no other creature in nature besides us that ever gets disappointed. Not a rabbit or a deer or an eagle or a pollywog or a whale. They're doing their natural thing by surrendering to who they are, creatures of natures. And their doingness is not their quest. Their beingness is their quest. Who are we really to be doing our best and never feeling fulfilled? Doing our best and still not feeling fulfilled. The deer is over there is fulfilled. That that whale is fulfilled. That eagle is fulfilled. Well, how come I can't be fulfilled? We do as much as we can, hoping we'll be more, what? More content, more satisfied, more happy. If I look around in nature, I see that beingness, beingness comes first, and then doingness is the automatic result of beingness. But we get that backwards, don't we? First we think I gotta have this thing. I gotta have it, whatever it is. I have to have it. In order to have that, I have to do these things in order to have that. So then I do these things and do these things to have that. But back in the beginning, there's beingness. Those are the three elements of our existence: being, doing, and having. So I get having going, I get doing going on, but I forget about the being. But the being is supposed to be the platform, the foundation, and all the rest of that is supposed to come from that. The doingness is supposed to come from my beingness. When I'm being who I am, then I automatically start doing certain things that are cohesive with who I am. And that flows out of me and transforms not only my life, but lives around me, helps change the world. That's why I'm here, to help change the world. And then that flows out of me, my beingness. And then automatically I have things, I have stuff, I have the results. If I'm worthy of having the results. So isn't that the fulfillment we're after? Isn't that what we really want? Self-realization, satisfaction, completion? What if we started off that way? What if we started off with beingness? You and I both know that there are billionaires by the dozens and accomplishers of others in things by the dozens. And one would think that they were content and satisfied and filled with completion, but most of them are not. A lot of them feel like they're on a merry-go-round and they keep missing the ring, the golden ring, the brass ring. Most of us have been there, and we know that feeling. And I'm talking about who we are, not what we do. We need to get that in order. We can go to a park or lay on the seashore for a day and it'll help. It'll help. But the feeling of oneness always goes away, doesn't it? I have to come back and I get back involved in my life. And I created that life. No one created my life. I created my life. And all the doingness and all of the busyness, I created that. It's me. Can I find myself in that? Can I go back and find the 3-year-old beautiful child that's still alive inside of me and honor that being? I can't just go to the seashore or go for a walk in the park and say, there, I did it. Gary Snyder, the 96-year-old environmentalist and poet, said nature is not a place to visit, it's a home. Nature's not a place to visit, it's home. And he'd agree with me that we need to embrace one feature of Taoism, which is so important to Taoism, which is letting go and let nature take charge. Nature, which is divine consciousness flowing through you, flowing through me right now, giving us strength, giving us bodies, giving us wisdom. Because we may build great physical things and even make a ton of money, but we can't hide from our true selves, not for long. And we've got some people in government right now that are hiding from their true selves, but they're like looking at the emperor or the king with no clothes. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're naked up there. There's no denying that we are each, you and me, we're creatures of nature, primarily creatures of nature. And as such, the only thing that will ground us in joy and selfhood is the flow of nature. And as hard as it seems for some of us to grasp, we are not masters of this universe. We're each an individual instrument in the great orchestra of nature. Each an instrument in this great orchestra. And when we're not in harmony, not in rhythm with the other instruments, we have neither value nor purpose. We have neither value nor purpose. So in the little while we're in these bodies, we have opportunities to create what has never been before. Never been before. What you're going to create has never been before. If you make that cake, if you knit that sweater, if you build that fence, if you write that book, if you create that training program, whatever you do, whenever you go onto your computer and start typing, that's never, ever, ever been done before. That's because you're an individuation of nature, of nature, of nature. And so your unique creations will be not only unique and individual, but because of their nature, they will be beautiful. But when we ignore nature as our source of power and wisdom, we find ourselves forcing reality, pushing, rather than allowing life to just do its magic. The great architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, said, study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you. Study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you. And the great Leonardo da Vinci, who painted The Last Supper and did so much incredible work, said, nature is the source of all true knowledge. Here's this great genius, one of the great geniuses that ever lived. In the 1500s, he designed a helicopter, for crying out loud. He said, nature is the source of all true knowledge. You want to be smarter? Nature. Go to nature. A few years ago, before there were tractors, a farmer plowed his field with a mule or a horse. So, you know that he was living in nature. He was living with nature. Then we got big tractors and farm equipment, and everybody's removed from the land. Nobody's paying attention to the dust and the dirt and the grime and and the birds in the fields. And that's disappeared. In the morning, that farmer would get up and he would go milk the cow and feed the chickens, and then he'd go put down some flakes of hay or oats for his mule or his horse, because that animal's going to have to work today. Make sure it gets a good breakfast, make sure it gets plenty to drink. And then after breakfast, the farmer would go out and hitch that animal up to the plow, and they'd start plowing the field. And as he's plowing the field, he's watching the soil overturn. He's watching that. He's not sitting on a tractor somewhere up in the sky. He's down on the ground. He's watching that. He's stepping through that plowed field himself. He's one with that. He's seeing the earthworms. He's seeing the birds come flying in here and there to get at those worms. He's seeing grasses and weeds being turned over. And he's watching his mule, and he's making sure that mule's rested, making sure that mule isn't overstressed. He was harmonizing with nature. He was not pushing nature. Nowadays, we push nature. We push the fields. We push everything. Get bigger equipment, bigger plows, bigger whatever, and we push. Why? It's because we need to have more. Not be more, have more. And it isn't just the farming, it's professional fishing. I was a commercial fisherman for a lot of parts of my life. And I was a forester also. And foresters and commercial fishermen used to be deliberately focused on flowing with nature, are now focused on profit. Just profit. And when we're focused on the ends, on the profit, on the success, rather than the means, rather than nature, and rather than the flow, when we're focused on the ends rather than the means, we simply lose the natural flow of energy and wisdom that flows so constantly from the environment into us if we're open to it. Most of us in these industrialized nations have completely forgotten who we are. We've forgotten that nature is consciousness and that everything that we touch is consciousness. Like that wall that you're seeing across from you right now, that wall is not solid. That wall's made of waves, vibrations. Everything is consciousness. That wall's being held together by consciousness. So is your body, so are you. That's nature. That's nature. This is simply a retraining of our minds to remember that we are one with the forests and the seas. The results of ignoring nature is not only the loss of that lovely, lovely, energetic wisdom, it happens to also be an ocean that's poisoned 6 miles deep by microplastics. And the fact that we're living in a climate change that's alternately scorching and drowning cities and people around the world. Not paying attention. We're not paying attention to what's real. We're pushing, forcing, pushing. Without nature as our spiritual foundation, our families are falling apart because love and caring have become secondary to our social standings. Kids are not going to school to become fuller human beings. They're going to school to become important, to get good grades so they can feel important and we can tell them that they're important. Then when they go out and play Little League baseball or soccer or football, popcorn or football or whatever those games are, tennis or whatever, it isn't about let's play. It's about let's win. It's not about let's play. It's about let's win. For many of us, daily joy has become secondary. It's become secondary, and we're buying society's increasing pressure to compete and win and win and win. And yet, beneath all our denial and distraction, nature is still in charge, always. A landmark hospital study in 1984 showed patients in rooms with views of nature had shorter hospital stays than patients with windows facing buildings. Novelist E.M. Forster asks this: what's the good of your stars and trees, your sunrise and the wind, if they do not enter into your daily lives? What are the good of your stars and your trees? What are the good? What's purpose do they even serve? Your sunrise, the colors of the sunrise and the sunsets and the wind and the beauty of the wind. What's the good of any of those if they don't enter into your daily lives? We're creatures of nature, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Can we find contentment with a tree waving in the wind and smiling in the sunlight? Can we find ourselves winning at life when surrounded by the gentle laughter of true love, of caring, of connection? Because that's one of the parts of nature, is to be able to look into someone's eyes and feel the smile of their soul, and to be able to give them a hug, and laugh and talk together. That's nature. Success in any area must accompany the preciousness of being alive. The preciousness of being alive. Otherwise, it simply isn't success. I don't care how many dollars go into the bank or whatever. It's still not success. Symbols of success don't have much meaning when you're alone, falling through space without a parachute of love. And parachutes always start with nature. We're creatures of nature, moving through darkness and light, breathing in oxygen, exhaling CO2. That's nature. That's us, flowing with nature. We each have about 30 trillion cells, and we're replacing about 330 billion of those every day. That's us, flowing with nature. Everything essential to life flows from nature. So we can afford to make personal plans or even corporate projections, but we have to make them with nature. Do we need nature to drive our cars? Of course, because what is speed, and what about the muscles to steer and the eyesights to see? That's all nature. What's light? Do we need nature to do our jobs? Well, yes, because what is electrical energy? Who am I? What I'm asking here today is for us to do this. Pay attention to nature in us and around us as us in every part of our lives. Let it be in every part of my life, not in some parts, in every part. When I take a breath, take a deep breath. You're breathing in the forests and the jungles and the seagrasses and the meadows of the world. The oxygen that's coming from them comes from them with love, with grace. Breathe it in, let it replenish and rinse your body and your soul. And then when you breathe out CO2, and those seagrasses, meadows, jungles, wildflowers all breathe in your CO2. And we're all happy together, and our lives go smoother. If a child's primary reason for going to school was to discover the deepest truths about herself or himself, instead of immediately being force-fed math and spelling, wouldn't their minds open wider to those academic essentials later on? For some kids, their first school year is okay because it flows with their individual natures. But for a lot of them, schooling is the opposite of their natures, and they struggle. Then teachers and peers see them as slow or even dull-witted. Many of the most widely learned people in history fell into this category, and then learn naturally, and then they learn naturally, and they become world leaders. People like Jesus of Nazareth, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Thomas Edison, Pablo Picasso, Leonardo da Vinci, and more. You know that Albert Einstein himself didn't speak a word until he was 4 years old? He couldn't speak until he was 4 years old. And school was not a scene he could deal with. Little Albert couldn't even read until he was 7 years old. His teacher said he was mentally slow and would never amount to much. So, what I'm asking us to do today is to be leaders in our world, in our community, by leading the way, by refocusing our attention and becoming more available to life, to true life, to pay more close attention to the river running through here, the powerful river of isness, of alwaysness that has our backs. We are forever children of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. And as such, we are being loved and blessed and safeguarded by nature, by the divine consciousness that's creating us. The Impressionist painter Claude Monet said, "My wish is to stay always like this, living quietly in the corner of nature." So, as we said last week, we connect with reality through our senses. And those senses are fed into our silent and isolated, dark brains. And our brains tell us what's real. They convert those images into reality for us. And most of that's being converted into a reality that isn't even true. It's just a reflection of our history, of the memories that we have and the opinions that we have. It's not even true. And there's another part of us that is true, and it's greater than our brains or our bodies. And that being will come fully alive for us only when we leave our bodies. And that being is not only one with nature, it is pure divine consciousness. And we don't have to wait until we die to go there. If we go into nature and begin to breathe nature and let nature become us, eventually we learn how to live, and not only in our bodies, but also outside of our bodies, in nature. Nature. That's another name for consciousness, nature. So let's slow down. Let's let go of all the stuff that's not natural in our lives. And let's watch how the lights start coming back on. I want to finish today by quoting a couple of people that I think have something to say. Author Peggy Pond Church said, "I lie here in the morning sun, the sun that finds me through the honeysuckle leaves, and I think of the sweetness my heart has and the sweetness of many hearts." And novelist Langston Hughes says, "Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain beat on your head with silver liquid drops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby, a lullaby. Let the rain sing you a lullaby." This week, let's remember who we really are. Let's remember, do you know what? We have become dismembered. Let's remember ourselves. Let's come back home. You are so precious. You are so precious. You're not an accident. You didn't come here through some anomaly. You are not a brain. You are not an intellect. You are a gift of light in my life, in the lives of the others in this world. Be the gift. Be the gift. Be you. And bring other people to this site so we can all grow as a family. And I will see you next week.